to my channel. I feel weird and like don't know how to act because my setup is so different right now, and I look like a little bit like a floating head on my monitor, but I guess that's kind of a good thing. That's kind of the point. Today, I wanted to do a little bit of a different video than I'm used to doing. Generally, well, I guess I've done this before, just not in a really long time. But anyway, I wanted to do like a Halloween face paint, and I'm gonna do it time-lapse style because I have a funny feeling that this is gonna take me probably hours. So what I'm gonna do today is I wanna do like a watercolor, like illustrated skull sort of a look for Halloween. And it's going to be inspired by this piece of art. I'm gonna put it up here on the screen. It is by an artist called Patrice Murciano. He does kind of like mixed media. A lot of it has skulls involved. And this one was like the most straightforward skull type one that I saw, but I really liked his work and I thought that it'd be really cool to turn it into a Halloween look. So that is what I am doing today. I'll put a link in the description to the webpage where I found the examples of his work. I think it's really cool. So hopefully this skull turns out really cool too. We will see. I'm gonna do a time lapse so we're not here all day. Well, I'm gonna be here all day, so you don't have to be here all day. Point out for you things that I find helpful and like products I like and stuff as I'm doing it, because you know, there are like little tricks and knacks to doing these more like artsy, painterly sort of makeup looks that definitely help. So I will help along the way, point those out in case you guys want to do something similar and get a little creative for Halloween. It's gonna only take a long time, and I'm actually worried that my camera's gonna run out of batteries in the middle of it. I'm gonna have to stop. So I'm just gonna shut the fuck up and I'm gonna start turning myself into this watercolor, illustrated, mixed media skull. So essentially what I'm doing here is just tracing out the shape of an actual skull, or like basically what a skull should look like, with an eyebrow pencil. I'm using the Kat Von D Signature Brow, but you can pretty much use whatever you want. The important part that you're going to want to nail is the teeth though. Now I'm just dipping into a white paint. This is a Paradise paint from MEHRON. I like to use Paradise paints because they're water activated. I feel like that's a little bit less intimidating for people than something that you might not be used to, like an alcohol paint. I usually find that they're pretty easy to work with, but they're not the most opaque. I'm also tracing out the shape of the nose because I forgot. And then I'm just painting in between those lines. And I'm kind of leaving out a lot of areas because I'm gonna fill those with color. So all the areas where it's gonna be obviously like a hole, like a recessed space, you're gonna wanna fill those in with black. And I used a black Paradise paint on the eyes and the nose, but here I'm filling in the cheeks and shading a bit with a black eyeshadow. I used the one from the Kat Von D Shade and Light Eye. And then I'm picking up a little bit of color. That's grape soda from SUVA Beauty, and I'm just starting to create a little bit of more color with that. And that one is actually a SUPERBROW from Kat Von D in magenta. I noticed that on this watercolor skull, there's a lot of colors that are really similar, but they're kind of like a slight gradient away from each other. This one that I'm using for between the teeth is called Freezy. Kind of looks like a little freeze pop. And here I transitioned into a slightly darker teal called Sea Nymph. So like that color isn't super different, but it sort of adds to the watercoloriness of it when you do like a slight change that's barely noticeable. For the rest of the skull, I'm gonna start creating just some watercolory shapes. I just keep looking back at the original painting for reference, so I'm just trying to make it as organic looking as possible with the products we were pretty much the same ones we were already using, but still trying to keep the integrity of a shape of a skull while getting that watercolory effect. When necessary, you'll notice that I go in with like a fluffy brush. That kind of helps disperse the paint a little bit more and give it more of like a soft effect, so it doesn't just look like a hard paint. And I'm even bringing some of the paint over the black areas because it was like that on the original painting, and I think that really added something to the way it had a lot of dimension. Next, I'm going to pick up my MAC paint pot and BLACKGROUND just to deepen up and smooth out some of those shadows along the cheekbones. And I'm also going to take my NYX Epic Ink liner pen and start adding some sketchy lines. I'm trying to follow the shape of the skull, but what it's also going to do is make it look more like a drawing and also add some shadow around some of the more watercolory colors that kind of mimics the way watercolor paint would pool when you're using it. And I'm also going to use it to define the teeth because the teeth were looking a little lackluster in my opinion. They needed some help. I'm gonna put it around the temple there. It's getting real drawing-y looking. And I'm also taking some white paint. This is Space Panda from SUVA Beauty, and I'm just adding some sketchy lines with that as well. And I'm gonna put it in the areas where they would be high points. So like the center of the teeth, the bridge of the nose, and I'm going back in with some red and adding some texture. This is kind of the part where you just kind of add those little finishing touches that makes everything come together. You kind of have to assess what you need on your own work at this point and just decide, just dive right in there and Bob Ross that shit. One of the things that makes a skull look really effective is having the waterline be really black. So I'm using the Kat Von D waterline liner. Honestly, I did a review on this. I don't really love it. I decided to use it for this because I figured if my eyes were going to water, you probably wouldn't notice. They still watered. I still don't really like it. I'm also bringing some black and I'm going to bring some other colors down the neck just because if you are going to use this as a costume, you probably don't want it to be just your head that's painted. Adding a little bit of color and some darkness on the neck. You could probably wear like a high neck shirt and maybe like a skeleton shirt or something, and this would be a whole ass costume. For the drips, you basically just want to do the damn thing. Just pick a color, find where it matches on your jaw, and then just let it drip down your neck. It's gonna fall organically, so you're not gonna have much control over it anyway. Something that I find really helpful for doing looks like this and also for doing lip art and stuff is actually using nail art brushes instead of makeup brushes for the little fine details, because I cannot find an eyeliner brush that is even close to as skinny as a nail art brush. And here, I'm just going back into those cheeks again. It took a really long time for me to be satisfied with the way the cheeks looked. I feel like I used my products maybe in the wrong order, but since we were being so painterly, I was, I don't know, I was just kind of winging it, to be honest. And I'm also blending a little bit more of that magenta shade in there too, just to make sure there's no like empty gaps where there's just random Nicole skin just peeking on through the skull. Once the paint on the neck is dry, I'm going back in with some more of that purple HYDRALINER from SUVA Beauty and adding a little bit of it onto the neck. I'm not adding too much though because I do want it to be almost like an optical illusion for photos so that the deepness of the colors on the neck kind of help it recess into the background and almost make it like a full skull rather than a skull painted on somebody's face. I'm also mixing a little bit of that purple with the Black Paradise paint and bringing that in to define some of the edges as well before we finish. And that's pretty much it. Now you just gotta dance it out. Alright you guys, here's the finished look. Please do not forget to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it because that really helps me out and I always appreciate it. I know this is not my usual type of content. I don't usually do like a voiceover or speed through type of thing, but it was kind of the only option with this because I didn't really know where I was going with it as I was doing it anyway. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. My hands look so weird compared to my painted face right now. It's so strange. There'll be other Halloween videos coming out within the next few weeks throughout October, as well as my normal content as well. And I'd love to have you around for all of it. Feel free to go ahead and follow me on other social media if you want to keep up with me between videos. I'm at Msquinnface on pretty much every social platform you could ever imagine in your entire life ever. But the one that this one is going to be posted on when I take pictures of it is Instagram, so go follow me over there. I also post a lot of my Instagram stories, do all my PR unboxings over there. We run polls, etc., etc. So come hang out, have a good time. That is all for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.